Emily, thanks for joining.
Yes, my pleasure. Thanks for having me,
Of
Dan.
course. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Sort of here we are in the fall, kind of all this moving and energy has been going on, and I'm glad to have a minute here to like sit down and just took down a show, opened another show in the last week, and got approved for my sabbatical for next fall. So I'm sort of like I feel lots of things happening.
That's great. A lot of movement. That's good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where are you teaching?
I teach at Keene State College in Keene, New Hampshire. And yeah, that's what brought me up to New Hampshire. I applied for the job in early, early 2019, had my interview, and then we moved up in September 2019.
Good timing.
Yeah,
Wow.
wild timing. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So did you were you te like that was like right at the start of the pandemic then, right? And
Well, I taught, for one semester and then the pandemic came. Yeah.
and so then you're basically not teaching for the next.
No, we taught in person through the pandemic. We were
Wow.
March
Wow.
2020, they sent everyone home and I figured out Zoom that semester, but then in the fall we were back in person.
So you've been teaching since then
Yes.
at
Yeah.
Keene State.
Yes.
That's great. And but you how long were you in Brooklyn for, in New York?
I actually starting in 1995. I would come in the summers and work for Jane Hammond and Mary Beth Edelson. So early, I was still in college, but I went to Antioch College, which was it was really non-traditional sort of model of education where you go for half 6 months in classroom in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And then the other 6 months you were out doing co-ops or internships that you would design and do a study project with. So I did some one year I was accepted to the GLCA Great Lakes College Consortium um, program in New York City. So I was given housing and whatever. It was a group of us that went, and then I worked for these two artists, and then they hired me back several other summers, and then when I finished college, I moved to New York and worked for Jane Hammond. So yeah, so off and on since 95.
So you kind of had your foot in the door at that point
Yeah, something like
in
that.
college. And
Yeah,
Are you from the Midwest?
I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So yeah.
Grew up in Pittsburgh, went to college in Ohio, and then did you go to grad school?
I did go to grad school at Hunter College.
Oh, okay, cool. So
I studied
after,
painting at Hunter.
but you
Yeah.
were already in New York at that point.
Yes, I was already in New York.
Do you know Letha Wilson? Did you go to?
Yes, yes.
That's right. I think that
Yeah,
was our initial connection, how we met, and then we
yeah.
reconnected again at Claire Grill's show.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Which interestingly, I just had Claire on the podcast.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing that. That's great.
After Hunter College, you stayed in New York.
Yes.
And what was your work like in grad school?
In grad school, I went in painting oil painting, large scale oil paintings with these sort of, I was always interested in drawing and doing these little like I- India ink drawings that then with these like fantastical characters and situations, sort of interested in like this idea of like these psychological sort of narratives with these weird little characters. So I was doing those and then started enlarging them with a projector, and then eventually just was free drawing these kind of wild characters. That's what I went into grad school with. And then at some point, one of my professors was like, why don't you stop using oil and start using acrylic? And so, kind of stretching out like 20-foot pieces of canvas and doing these sprawling kind of world landscape figure abstractions, basically. Um, so that's what I was doing. So my thesis show was big paintings. I wanted to create these worlds, these sense of these other places that had, sort of metaphoric images and scenarios that were sort of based around ideas of longing and desire and looking at the sort of machinery that moves us. So those were the things I was thinking about in grad school. But I remember in my senior thesis show, I was like, I want to, we're like setting up the room. I was like, oh, I want to have like a little shelf in here for like, postcards and things like that. And I went and found this like beautiful barnwood, and I was like, wow, this combination of this found wood and the paintings, and it was such a small thing, but I think it started this other body of work once I finished grad school, which was starting to integrate. I had my first solo show in 2006 at a gallery called Priska, which is no longer around. I had two shows with them. And the first show was all paintings, including this large scale 26-foot painting with called Strange Dust, thinking about um, sort of this post, like this world that was something other than what I had seen. I had gone to India for the only time in 2005 and spent a month, and I was really just so blown away by how different everything was. This idea of like threshold, doorways with peppers around them to sort of protect that, and climbing up to like have like this blessed tiny little bit of water um, from this bowl, from this carved wooden or carved stone bowl, like way up on this mountaintop, and the shrines, all the things just really kind of blew my mind. Um, so anyway, that was part of that painting. And then, um, so I came back and started taking found objects and like old speakers and 5-gallon buckets and mannequin heads, and my studio neighbor at the time, my studio was in Greenpoint on Manhattan in India, and my studio neighbor had been a costume designer and then was tragically murdered, and her uncle, um, who was 80 years old or 90 years old, was in the studio, like clanking around one day, and I hadn't met him before. And I went in and we just like got along. His name was Abe, so well. And I helped him a bit in the studio. And then he ended up giving me all this crazy stuff that had been left behind, like all mannequin heads, like this it was like a dream world of this like incredible vintage clothing collection. And he gave me like bits of like fur and lace and all this like material that I started putting on my paintings, and then putting on top like a skin with plaster on top of these found object, and making these sort of totemic like multiple heads that reflected some of the drawings I was making and paintings I was making. Little bit
Oh
of
yeah.
tangent there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I was making in grad school and after grad school. And that the my second solo show was with these paintings and these sculptures that sort of resembled what I had seen, um, what the world I was trying to create in the painting. Since it was this great sense of like, oh, that world is now coming out into the dimensional space. So it's not just this imaginary like flat world, it's also stretching out into the gallery, onto the floor, into the studio. So that trajectory has sort of carried me, really, for the last however many years that is.
So you would say you're still kind of on that
I
trajectory of not paintings, not sculptures, space that is maybe coming out from the picture plane.
Yes.
emerging from the picture plane, I should
Yeah,
say.
that's what I'm interested in. And I think more and more I'm finding, I remember Jeff Mongrain was one of my professors in at grad school, and he had us do this assignment that was like, make a piece of art that's totally unlike anything you've ever made. And so I sort of made this like dimensional circle for people to gather around. And I think that little seed, and I don't think it was a successful piece that I made or anything amazing, but I think that's that same sense of like pulling people in and giving that kind of space is what I'm interested in, like giving a space to gather and sit and be and experience. So that's kind of what I'm like, thinking about within my work now in different forms and ways, and more or less successful as I figure it out.
How would you say that like seeing the images as a JPEG online differs from the actual experience of one of your pieces?
I mean, I think it's the same for so much art, not all, but right, that scale and texture and mark and like movement between makes a big difference. And I think that like seeing everything, kind of the whole thing together, which is what you can grab in an installation shot versus the experience of circling around or sitting on or being in between, finding those connections as you move between the sculpture and the painting behind, and that sort of play between images and the conversation that happens with it.
Some work is flat and more, I guess, suited for social media, and we're increasingly living in this digital world where we want things that are easily digestible, quick, and very fast. But experiencing something in person is much different, right?
Yes. And I've been thinking about, I think, yeah, definitely much different. And I've been thinking about the language of mark and scale and color that I work with. It feels like very much my language and way of like moving through the world. That's how I kind of speak through and process. And I see a really interesting parallel between life and work and making and how they fit together, and what I'm seeking out or struggling or finding within the making. Often as I look back, sort of there's parallel so much, right? Between what I'm what is going on in the world, like my experience of it, and through the work. So I've been thinking more about, I struggle a lot, or I don't feel very confident in all of my writing around the work. And I think that I'm hoping for this generous audience to, you know, grasp on. But I do think it is about what you just said, that we want things easily packaged, and I don't think I'm at that place. And I'm glad about that, but I also have been thinking about what happens when there is more story told, and like where, whereas I just, I don't know where I saw this quote. I just passed it written on one of my notebook sketchbooks this morning, of that um freedom is a practice, and like thinking about that freedom within the work, and that's something I've practiced, but this sort of finding ways to let others in, maybe that aren't able to kind of grasp on,
Mm.
might be interesting. And I don't know what those stories would be, but I'm like, okay, I've got to do more writing.
Well, is there a conscious narrative in your work?
No.
No.
But I
Mm.
think reflecting back there, I see it, and sometimes there is bits and threads of conscious narrative that all sort of scatter and then come back together.
Perhaps we could say there's a subconscious narrative.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think.
So when you make something, do you have an initial idea? Is it from a sketch or is it from, do you just start going? How do you approach when you first start a painting?
Oh, with the paintings, I start with like washes of color, like the color is what, you know, big swaths of color and then responding to that, right? So that um, really kind of looking at a thing and sort of thinking about what colors are sort of passing in my imagination and mind at the moment. So it is that aspect is incredibly intuitive as I'm going. And then so that's how I start. And then I build up from there. And then there is this oftentimes this like, okay, well, that's not working. Like, how can I do the counterintuitive thing or, flipping a thing and then changing where it's heading and going? That's often how I'll work. In this piece I just had up at the Brattleboro Museum, I started in a different way. I started with like drawing out, laying it out on the floor and drawing it with paint and then really trying to restrain color. So I like to give myself different sort of ways of approaching the painting and switch it up. So that painting is actually feels more drawing like. There's no, it's very the immediacy of the line and the paint is there much more in relationship with drawing, which I think is always, I mean, like drawing is a base for me, so that comes into the paintings as well.
It's not necessarily the same for every painting or every, yeah.
No. Oh, it would, yeah, definitely so many starts to different, ways of doing things in different ways. Okay, that's like different prompts for myself. And I think it depends on where I'm at. If I'm making a lot of work at the same time, um, there's many different projects that or paintings happening, like, whatever, 10 different paintings happening. And then I'll sort of focus in on one, and then moments will sort of cross-pollinate to the other paintings. And then often what I've been finding is that the smaller paintings on the side become more mysterious and dynamic than the one that I'm like, I am working on you. So it's a funny, how to sort of harness all these different ways. And I just am like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about harnessing it. Like I trust that bodies of work come together and speak, and I see the line that carries through all of them. So
That's like a good metaphor for life, that you think
mm,
it's the one thing like that you're really focused on, but it's the things that you're not looking at. There's the things that you're kind of peripherally aware of that become important often.
yes, absolutely.
You got to watch the edges, right?
Right, right, right. Or what is that quote? I spent my life fishing only to find it wasn't fish I was after. So,
Yeah, you're after some sort of peace or state of mind or something, right?
yeah,
Something that, yeah, I think that so much, but you have to focus on something. So you do multiple paintings and sculptures at the same time. Like
yeah.
if you have a show, for example, would you do basically the whole show at once?
I mean, ideally, there's enough lead time that I can work through things. So, I make a lot of work and then edit down.
Mm.
So the show I've just installed, it's a small show, but it was actually a really interesting experience because I pulled some older paintings and a drawing and then the sculptures and some newer paintings and kind of found such an interesting, you know, connection between all of the works and where I want to go. And it just it felt really like a generative space to kind of move on to what's next. So what I'm working on next is back to, in some ways, back to that seed of that I talked about with that grad school class of like making spaces to sit around and gather. So I'm working on these sculptural seats. So I've done seats in the past out of wood, and I made a couple of these this summer, and I'm really like, okay, I'm really excited about them as painted surfaces to paint on, as surfaces to interact and like invite the sitting and immersing in the painted and sculptural kind of world. So that's what I'm working on now. And I think as they get formed and come into the studio, the conversation between the paintings and those um, um, seats that are sort of based loosely on the utility of a 5-gallon bucket. So like as teaching, I'm like, okay, we're going outside to paint, everyone. Get your materials, your paints, and your bucket, and let's go outside. And then the bucket acts as like whatever, a seat or a pallet holder or whatever.
So how has living in the country changed your work?
Um, I mean, it's changed my life. Completely. Like it is such a different, I think I'm just finally, I don't know why it's taken me so long, but I think I feel like I'm finally kind of getting to how it is influencing my work in different ways. I mean, it is, um, surround sound here, it is this, beautiful, our house backs into a state park, a state forest. So there's like, um, hundreds of acres of woods and trails and it's a much quieter, like life is much quieter here than New York City. Um, and that sort of has given me space to sort of work. Um, and sometimes I think that quietness is good, and other times I really miss the energy and the community of the city. And so finding ways to continue that while I'm here is something I'm just realizing how important that is. Um, so how is it? I don't really 100% know how it's changed. I mean, I know that now I have, a studio at home. I have my kiln set up here. I'm um, creating a ceramic space here to work. And so that's been a big change. I think continuing to nurture and find the community here has been great. I think a big change is actually in the teaching, like my relationship with teaching, because I had been adjuncted for many years or part-time assistant professor at Parsons within the first year program, and also at Fordham and Yeshiva, the the women's campus on Lex and 61st. Yeah, when I came here to Keene State from Parsons, it was just such a different community of students. And so now I've really like it's taken quite a while, but I've built up it's taken me a while to adjust and to adjust my teaching and to adjust the way I approach um, educating and making art and working with students. And that's been huge because it has helped me see this relationship to like finding those areas of finding their curiosity and questions and using that to propel them and the projects forward. And it's just I'm like sort of continuing to like change how I teach, which now I feel like, okay, this is starting to really work well with my students, and that sense of community within the classroom. So that's kind of where I've brought this sense of community is to I think to the department and to my students. And that is something I've seen change since I've been there. So I'm very happy about that. And that's taken a lot of energy and thought. And then because that's taken so much energy and thought, there is this um, like kind of coming back to my home studio, coming back to the woods, coming back to this quiet and like kind of closing in a little bit because it is a lot of output. Like there is, I care a lot about my students and um, I believe in, the transformative qualities and aspects about art making in a classroom and studying art. And I'm working with students, some of whom have traveled, some of who have never been to a museum. So it's a really interesting population, a lot of first generation college students, um, and compared to Parsons, not as affluent of a population. So it's been really interesting and taken a lot of I don't think I would have I did not realize how much work being a full-time faculty member was and I see it now. But I think I've laid a really strong foundation, so I feel good about that. And yeah, yeah. So when I think about the changes, it's like I've been able to give that space to really create an environment within my classes and create this kind of tight community of our BA and BFA students and seeing their work develop. And so then I come home and I do want to just like not quite sequester in, but there is an element of like, let me be in my studio and like kind of be in my own space too and protecting that mental and creative space.
I think as artists, you have to delight in solitude.
Yeah.
Do you need a community? I have an aunt who lives in rural Washington. The last time I saw her, she seemed pretty depressed about she doesn't have any like artist friends or any community really. I should say I try not to take it for granted in New York, but we're so lucky here to have such a strong community and such a vibrant community. And it sounds like you've created a community of your own up there.
I mean, I also like welcome friends and artists to come and stay. We have this great guest suite Airbnb that I've have several friends that come pretty regularly to come paint and be here. I'm also in Peterborough, New Hampshire, where MacDowell is. So it's great when friends come through there and I'm involved with MacDowell. So there's that sense of vibrancy as well. And then I go to New York, sometimes more often and sometimes less often, but like the fall and the early winter, I try to get down every couple months. Summer, it's so beautiful up here. I don't want I don't go down as often in the summer, but the fall and winter and spring I get down. So and that community, my friends and my art community, um, yeah, there's nothing like it. I miss my New York City friends and then that ease of studio visits, which is a little harder here I have some community, but it's different. It's a different.
Just start a podcast. All the studio visits you could possibly want. It's great. So, but also you have the monastery, Temple Forest Monastery is up there. I'm not sure if you've been.
I still haven't been yet. I should go. I will go. I'm like at 1 o'clock on a Sundays. It's so hard for me, but
Well, it is studio time. I understand.
Yeah.
Go for the meal though. It's like a potluck style. You can bring something, and that's the main event, pretty much. Actually, that the monastery connected us inadvertently,
Yes. Yeah.
indirectly. There was somebody at Claire's opening. I can't remember
Right.
who.
You had said, I think you said to Maureen Cavanaugh, I just came back
Yes,
from New Hampshire. And she said, Emily just came down from New Hampshire. And so we connected. And it's a place that, I have not been yet, but I'm excited to. I think that'll be a great winter
it's a beautiful
spot.
place. The next time I go, I'll let you know. Just the energy in that part of New Hampshire is very strong. There's a lot of it's just very peaceful. I think Ken Burns is up there, right?
Ken Burns is in Walpole. Yes. So he's not far from here. There's actually like two other monasteries not far from here. Yeah, I mean it is an interesting corner here.
Yeah, yeah. There's good energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a good spot. It's a good spot.
Mm. So when you go to New York, do you go to galleries, museum, not just openings, but do you go to like museum shows and things like that?
Yes, I
Yeah,
go and I'm just like gluttonous,
soak it in. Yeah,
eating the art and galleries and museums and um conversations with friends and that the trip I met you on was one of my best trips. It was just really I had come down on the bus with 50 of my students to New York City and then I sent them home on the bus and I stayed for 4 or 5 days with MacDowell National Benefit being the end note that I finished on, which was a great party as well, and raised a lot of money for the residency and fellows. So it was a great trip. I think I mean awesome studio like two studio visits I think, two artist talks. Like, I don't know how many galleries. I hit the MoMA and saw the Ruth Asawa on my way out to the bus to go back home. So it was, oh, and the Whitney. Yeah, it was a great few days. So it does, that fills me up. And I see more and more how much I need that oxygen that I get from people in the community. So yeah.
That's the real resource of New York. That's the real stuff. I remember coming here back in like 2013, fresh out of grad school, and I thought I'll make my career here. You know, this is where I'm going to make it here. You know, I'm going to be an artist. And but you think it's that, going back to what we were talking about, how you think it's the one thing, but it's actually the thing on the periphery, the edges, the thing you're not really paying attention to. That over the course of, I guess it's been over 10 years now that I realized that it wasn't a career or monetary gain that really mattered. You know, it's like all the connections and all the wonderful people that, and those are the people also at the same time that are supporting you. They're getting you jobs, or they're helping you find this or that place. Like every place I've had, every job I've had here has been through a friend.
Yeah.
All the shows or whatever you want to do, all the connection. It's just, it's really about connection, and it's such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I mean, my teaching jobs I held for 12, 10 years that supported me through my life in New York City were through friends. I mean, it's just, and exhibitions and all this, so much of that. And I really do, it's such a wonderful wide net, whether it's the art world or being within a neighborhood community or, I have done, friends I've met, mid 2000s in tiny yoga studio in Greenpoint that, I'm still in contact with. So it's a really interesting, I mean, that's how I found I mean, there we have it. I'm living in a house that I met, that I found the owners through my old yoga teacher in Brooklyn. So, I mean, it's just like that is like this, this powerful connective web that holds us together. And I love that. And I really value that part of my life. And it's hard in a new place to like, I can't build that immediately. That's like many years of, it's a slow process.
It seems like you kind of have the best of both worlds, though. You've still maintained these connections in New York. You can still visit whenever you want, but you have a community up in New Hampshire and your students, and that seems like you found good balance.
I'm working on it. And I also at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't know about balance. Like, I don't believe there is ever balance. I think it is like, you know, things don't work for me in a balance. It's like back and forth, but that within that there, some sort of equilibrium or sort of countering works. So
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
balance is a myth.
yeah. I suppose so. Yeah, it's like it's more like surfing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I can say that because I went surfing once,
Okay.
a total of one time.
Yeah, yeah. Just like surfing. I've never been surfing, but
But
yes.
you can get the, it's pretty much like
Yeah.
surfing. Yeah, yeah. Or like, so I did a meditation up in Shelburne Fall. Done a few of these retreats. Do you know Vipassana?
Yes, yes, yes.
10-day silent retreat. There's one in Shelburne Falls, which is awesome. One of my early retreats, the instructor was saying meditation is like surfing, but he was like, oh, you knew I was a painter. So it was like, it's like painting. Like you're
Mm,
mixing a color and you go one way and you go too far, and then you go the other way and that's too far. And then you're trying to
mm,
find the right spot that's just the
mm,
color you want,
mm.
but but the truth is that it's always moving, right? It's always
Right.
changing.
Right. Just like right meditation, you're the same right idea of that, like this idea of like, I'm gonna have this like quiet epiphany. And there it is always this, okay, thinking, hunger, pain, okay, come back down again, back to the breath, back to the breath. So I do think, yeah, that is very much like I can speak to that more than I can speak to surfing. Yeah.
But same idea, right? So,
Right.
when you go to the city, where, if you go to like the Met or something, I've been asking this question, which I think often yields some interesting answers, but where would you go first?
Oh, I dive right through the Greek vessels and vases, and then head over to the South Pacific, South Asian room with that giant um, ceiling panel with this like collab. Everyone has made, all the men have made painted their piece of tree bark, and it creates this shelter that hangs overhead. So I love that. Um,
Art of the Pacific, I think, was redone recently.
I think it's still there. It's been there. I think it's still there. I mean, now I'm like, oh, what, am I right? I'm pretty sure it's still there.
You go far back in
Yes.
history, yeah.
Yeah, I go there. That's where I sort of start and then work my way, whatever special exhibition I want to run to see or yeah, but that's where that's sort of um I love that spot over there.
What
Yeah.
draws you there?
Um I mean it's objects that are about ritual, it's about community, it's about mark and carving and ideas of protection and force. Um, as
Symbolism,
looking,
perhaps?
yeah, I was gonna say looking at that as, symbolism and, you know, abstraction and color and often using like what is around oneself. So yeah, that pulls me there for
That's
sure.
good. Now, as far as contemporary art, what it would have been influential to you?
Oh, let's see. I'm like still, let me bring my brain up. I mean, I think all of my friends' work is really influential to me, seeing um I've a dear friend, even though we're not close, in terms of location, she's in Los Angeles. Katie Krantz is a big influence and um, looking at what she's doing within her painting ceramic world is really exciting to me. Um, I mean, but I think I pull influence really, really widely. Like, I love the work of Lois Dodd, that sort of
Oh,
careful
yeah.
place and being in a place and really looking, that sense of like observation. Um,
There's a show at Karma right now, a group show with Lois Dodd, Josephine Halverson.
oh, yeah, I love Josephine Halverson's work as well. So
So
beautiful.
beautiful. Catherine Murphy's in the show, and that stuff,
Yeah,
you got to see it.
incredible. Yeah.
Amazing. Just so good. I also love observational, very tight observational painting. I was sort of indoctrinated in that at Indiana University.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the school, what it's interesting looking. I didn't realize it at the time, but my teachers, my main teachers were taught by this guy, Leonard Anderson, that taught
Oh,
at Brooklyn College. But he was sort of like a looser Catherine Murphy, kind of always from life. And so I was trained in that way. It was almost like an atelier. And I still use some of it, but it's interesting. Like you don't really know at that point as a young student what you're absorbing and how you're being taught that this is the best way to do things.
right. 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 And same, my undergrad, my professor had just finished Yale and had been a student of oh my gosh, William Bailey. And
Yes, I know his work.
I mean, I remember seeing Catherine Murphy in his class, and he was very big on observation. And I like fought against him every single thing I could do. I was like, I want to paint abstraction and da da da. And I would do that, but then I would do these, very, based in color, based in observation, perceptual painting. And I do think it attunes our attention and it attunes the way we look and see and colors, the interaction of color and space. I mean, I still work in some ways in that way, right? It's just different kinds of views of things. But yeah, I definitely feel that and that sense of being with a thing and observing and looking. That is key.
Really looking at the quality of that thing,
Yeah.
really looking deeply into it. Just looking at something is basically an art form, I think.
And meditation.
And yeah, that's right. And a meditation. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's hard. It's harder and harder. I don't want to sound like an old cruster, but I'm like, these, it's like they're killing our attention. They're still, but there's so many objects, so many sort of devices that will just destroy your attention if you're not careful. I think having a strong studio practice is very healthy for the attention because you're just there. You're focused on that thing. You're really looking at the quality of the thing, and like so many things, it's an opportunity cost. Or in a good way. Like you're in the studio, you're focused. So it's like it's not just that you're doing that. It's like all the stuff you're not doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like for me, I'm thinking a lot about how to like nurture and support the studio practice and how to see that as also guiding towards what's next, right? So that sort of conversation and looking and kind of being there and letting be guide, sort of finding the guidance through, okay, this what is this and what else can it be and what is bringing like what is piquing my curiosity and inquiry and like what do I want to see next. So it is also like right now I am in this like a kind of exciting, I'm excited for this in between phase where I am like, okay, what's next and how what do I weave together that makes sense, and I have that opportunity. And I'm excited for my sabbatical in the fall to sort
Oh
of have
yeah.
more, time and space and also to do some research, looking, traveling.
Well, where will you go?
I'm gonna go the top places I'm really excited to go to at this moment. I'm gonna apply for some more fall residencies, but because I would like to be in some other locations for a little while. It's kind of good for I always did residencies when I lived in New York City. I liked just getting away and just having that focus and also clean white slate studio space. Like, okay, let's see what's happening here. And I want to do some larger ceramic pieces. So I kind of want to find a place with a big kiln. But I'm going to head to see Nikki St. Paul's Tarot Garden um, outside of between Rome and Florence. So I'll spend some time in Rome and in Florence and then go see the Venice Biennale. So that's part of the fall. And I think this summer, my husband, we met in France at a residency 10 years ago. So this early summer in May, I think we're going to our plan is to head to southern France and go see the caves or the reproductions of the cave drawings, as most of the caves are closed. But he knows a few sites. There's a place called Gavernice that has these incredible Neolithic stone carvings and in Brittany, lots of old stone temples and burial sites. So it's a really rich place. So we'll go there and then head south. So that'll be the start, and then the end will be um, in Italy.
Oh man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the movie Cave of Forgotten Dreams.
Yes, I love that. I love that movie. And
I
I love Herzog. So
It's so good. I taught painting in grad school and I showed that to my class. And at the end, the epilogue, talking about the albino crocodiles,
yes,
they were all just bewildered. I'll give them something to think about. What does he say about what are their hopes? Do they
yeah,
dream? Going there. Wow, that's an amazing, that's really where it all started
yeah,
as a painter.
yeah. And I talk about that. I show that film as well. And I'm to my students, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go see that. I want to go kind of be in that space and whatever, feel that sense. And I also think about it with my ceramic sculptures, like that it is about drawing and interacting with this like textural surface and space, and that is like interacting with the contours of the cave and the texture of the cave. So I'm just like I'm really I don't know exactly what will come of it, but I'm really looking forward to it.
We'll have to talk again after that. I'm quite curious about your experience
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I don't hear of anybody doing that, but that seems like a really important, almost like the equivalent of a painter's trip to Mecca.
We'll see, right? I mean, there is this sense that a lot of them are facsimiles of the real thing. So who knows? Like, will it be this like weird? I mean, it's not going to be peak season when I go, so the tourism of it, I don't think will be out of control. Um, so I don't know. I'm curious to see what it is. But just like, um, we I've spent some time around Mount Saint Victoire and gone to Cézanne studio, and just being there, I was like, oh, of course, this all comes together. Like the trees really are purple and the light is really doing that. And of course, that world of his paintings makes sense here. So, these are not that the color necessarily is going to make sense, but I'm just curious to experience them, even if it is, a fake version of it.
Just to be there in that landscape, though, it's very
Yeah.
important. I had a similar experience in Bruges and in Belgium. I went to see the Northern Masterpieces, the Ghent Altarpiece,
Mhm.
and the Hans Memling Museum, and all these Bruges-based master paintings. And that landscape, it looks like that. The tiny white flowers, the
Mhm.
leaves, it's the same landscape. So you're really transported, and the architecture as well. Being in Brussels, you're like, oh, okay, I understand these paintings a lot better.
Right. Right. That's it. That's it.
You get to travel a lot.
Love to travel. Yeah, I mean, I love to travel. I find incredible inspiration. It's like seeing things fresh and new, and it does feed my work. I do. I mean, I now we travel quite a bit. We go to France to see my husband's family, and
So he's
uh,
French.
he's French. Yeah. And my mom is in Mexico, so I've kind of been between back and forth between Mexico, San Miguel de Allende, and and France. But this last year I didn't do a lot of traveling, but the year before I did a lot. So I don't know. I love just seeing moving and being in different places and going to see art and different, different, in the US we see such a, East Coast especially, you kind of, there's always gems at the museums, but it's so interesting to, in Paris see, at the Pompidou see things we just would not see here. And um just seeing museums in different places and galleries. It's just I love it. So
It
yeah.
changes your consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are extremely lucky here. I was at so I saw this stuff in Belgium and Northern Europe, and I came back here, and I'd gone to the Met, and I was inspired initially last spring by seeing some Hans Memlings that the Met has. Just and they have an incredible collection, but I was expecting that I didn't know how rare they were. For one thing, they're just very slow. They're really slow paintings, and there's just not that many that have survived or whatever, or I went to Chicago to the Art Institute thinking, oh, they'll probably have a good Northern Renaissance collection. There's like one B-side Memling, and I'm just like, where's everything else? We're just so lucky. The Met is such an incredible collection. The cloisters, and there's, Petrus Christus, the painter.
Oh,
He was
oh.
sort of seen to be like Van Eyck's successor, but
Mm.
out of only, I think, 35 existing paintings, the Met has five. So you said you were influenced by a wide variety of things, historically and contemporary art. What do you think there might be in common between those things?
Oh, what inspire? I mean, I think um, let's see. I mean, let's see. I mean, color, right? Um, is that what your question is? Like what?
Not to put you on the spot too terribly, but I'm just curious about, like, for example, I was talking to a painter who was an older guy, New York painter, and he was talking about his interest in suprematist work. And then he was saying, I love this stuff. And then he also loves Matisse,
Mm.
which seemed to have very little in common. But he was like, I think it's just the interest. Their interest is what he's interested in. What do you like from all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to like, I don't, nothing is like popping to the top of my mind about what connects things, but I do think that um, the quality of attention, the quality of intention within the work, um, you know, I think, and then the connections I make within it, I think is part of it too. Like, and I'm trying to think like I at a base level, um, I grew up going to the Carnegie Museum, which had, pretty a nice collection, but a small collection, right? So seeing Matisse's cutouts and Milton Avery and Warhol and Susan Rothenberg and just and then the Carnegie International came through, which was like, seeing Mike Kelly at age like 12 or whatever, just like this way of making a painting or a sculpture that just like brings you somewhere else. I mean, or like connects to some other kind of those questions. And I think that's maybe what I'm interested in too, is like that we are, as much as we know, right, there is all this unknown and mystery and untapped kind of things that are around and apart and above and below us. And I just think that that's also what's really interesting to me in making, and the not knowing. I kind of love that sense that the studio can become this place of not knowing, and kind of being comfortable and okay with that, and then later kind of reflecting and seeing like, oh, what is happening here and what is this about, meaning making from that mystery. And like that's what we've always done, right? That's what we do as humans, as humankind. And I think that's really, I mean, and storytelling within that, but also um yeah.
That's really good. The creation of meaning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
I was thinking about um, music that I love, and I was thinking about that I really love these like sort of ballads and like songs that have so many different things like woven together in them. And
What sort of music? What do you like?
well, I mean, I'm thinking of like songs that have like stories woven into them. So, I mean, of course, like let's see. I mean, I love like Neil Young, right? I'm just listening to this new Florence and Florence and the Machine album that is like these ballads and storytelling and symbolism all wrapped up in them. And like I,
Are you a Joanna Newsom fan?
yes, I love Gianna Newsom, but then I'll go back. I mean, I go back to like listening to the Hair soundtrack, from the movie, and then the Smiths and the Cure, and I just like all these things. But it's about, I think, these like long ballad stories. I really love that, and so I don't think I could say one thing that connects all of those. Um, but being and seeing art that like stops me in my tracks is pretty what I love that. The Susan Rothenberg show I just saw in New York was just like astoundingly beautiful.
Where was
Um
it?
the symbolism, it was at Hauser and Wirth, or was it no, Hauser and Wirth, yeah. And it was an incredible show, and full of like her sort of imagery that is also symbolic and not totally so open for interpretation and questioning and mystery. And so yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one though.
No, that's good. There doesn't need to be there doesn't need to be like a clear answer
I
necessarily.
like
I think
I
it's
would like to have a clear, I mean, that's the thing. I would love a clear answer, but I think I'm like, wow, like, there are many answers. So
that's the beauty of art, that it
yeah.
is open like that, and that it is something that I think is more important than we realize in the culture. It's a really important way to keep the culture from stagnating
Yeah.
on a very deep level. Maybe the intention, not the intention, but yeah, I suppose the function changes throughout time, but I think that has always been the case.
Hmm.
Just for example, a lot of the paintings that I'm referencing, the Northern Renaissance paintings, they're all narrative paintings, so they're biblical stories. I've been very drawn to the Annunciation, or you have the Madonna with child and so forth, and all these stories that all share common. The narrative can be understood by anyone looking. But then it sort of changed, it shifted at some point, and then that wasn't necessarily the case where there's a clear narrative like that is the culture can understand.
I mean, I know that you're meditating, but what is I mean, I'm interested in your relationship um, with religion or with spirituality or both.
I was always struck, or had been struck by the theme of the Annunciation because it seems to be, I mean, it comes from the Judeo-Christian tradition, but technically it's pre-Christian, right? Christ isn't even around yet. And I think you see these myths resurface, time and time again through various cultures. I'm sure you've encountered Joseph Campbell and the way he talks about the virgin birth and that being a common theme throughout history. He talks about that being basically a metaphor for the transition of animal man into human, into spiritual man,
Mm,
animal human into spiritual human. And I think that mystery that is very quite intriguing to me. Like, what is that? What is that transition? Are we going through it now? And what's going on? I think we've always been doing that, always been wondering and always sort of wanting a message from out there, from a higher authority. In the Annunciation, it's like a message from God. Now we sort of think about I think we think about aliens the same way. People are
mm,
fascinated with aliens. What are they? What's the message they're going to bring us? How can they help us? And same thing with AI, I think. There's a lot of things that can definitely be seen as the same. We're very similar. We're the same beings that made those cave paintings.
mm,
We're still sort of tapping into those same places and we have the same questions
mhm.
with just a different context, I think.
Yeah, it's really, and I mean, it's really interesting to think about what you said about aliens. And I think I've, that sense of purpose and meaning that religion has given people. Um, I remember I started seeing my therapist in New York City the day of 9/11. Like maybe it was my second session, and I'm in her office and the planes hit, and she was on 14th and 3rd. But so I've done I've been in therapy for a long time, or quite a while. And I think one of the things about therapy is like looking at things in your life and finding patterns and finding symbolism and like what is the meaning of those things. And so I've thought for quite a while, like with the lack of, religion, there is this sense of understanding the world around you through therapy, through like patterns and understanding that fills a sense of like meaning making that religion gave. So I do think it's interesting to think about that idea of this, where the angel and the bird and all the symbolism in those paintings like coming down and sort of shining a light, right? So
Yes. Yes, that's really good. And then what's taken the place of that belief, of that spiritualism? And I fight in my darker moments, I think, oh God, it's just consumerism. That's the new God. That's what's taken the place. And in some ways it is, but in some ways we're still on that quest. It's not like there's the one thing necessarily. I think it could be anything. It's just believing in something. And I think for artists, we're so lucky that the love of making art and art in general can be this higher power, if you will. But there's such a mysterious quality to everything. Floundering about, and trying to do our best and trying to make sense of the world. And then we're just inundated with information and it's so difficult to parse it out. And I think it's probably best just to not absorb most information, the news, that everybody is trying to capture your attention somehow. But speaking of attention, I think one thing that drew me to these paintings in particular is the amount of attention that I could spend. I could sit there 5, 10, 15 minutes on a single painting. And now I think with the way that sort of our attention is being shaped, you're lucky if you look at a painting for longer than 30 seconds.
right,
You know.
right, yeah. That's why I want to make seats.
That's good.
Think of Mary Heilman's rolling seats, like you
Yeah.
have to stay still. You have to like be here and be with it. I mean, that's how we make them, right? Where we sit and unfold them slowly or fold them up, unfold them, whatever it is. Um, that process of making and it takes time. I mean, not every, of course, not everyone's going to do that, but I think, good idea. And for you, like I know that you're going to Vipassana retreats and coming up here to the forest mountain forest
Oh,
temple
Temple Forest Monastery. Yeah.
or monastery. And where like how, I mean, did you grow up in a religious household? Do you like or did you kind of come to meditation? Like how does that fit into your constellation?
I was raised Catholic. My father was Jewish, and my mom took the reins on the religious side of things. Never got into it at all. And my favorite part of church was leaving. Not having not having to go for another week. There's no juice there. You can feel it in certain times. I went to the Cologne Cathedral. My brother and I would go to masses just to hear mostly just to hear what the organ sounded like in those spaces. But you get a sense of it. And I think when those were made, they were meant to really transport you, and the whole experience was supposed to be transport. But even then, don't play this tired old stuff. Play some Bach. There's so much power that I think has been removed from the churches and removed from organized religion. But the monastery, you can feel it. You can feel that they're really in touch with this essence or whatever you want to call it. I think it can be found everywhere, anytime. I had a conversation with my studio mate, Jonathan, who went to Yale, and he
Mm,
was taking like a seminary class, and the person who led it was talking about not praying to God, but praying within God.
mm,
And that changes the whole conversation. It's not this other thing that's out there. It's around you all the time. The monks from the tradition at the monastery, the Theravadan monks, will talk about consciousness as not being something outside of yourself.
mm,
It's like a fish asking where water is.
mm.
If I subscribe to anything, it might be close to some sort of panpsychist. Do you follow that at all?
No.
It's the idea that everything is alive
Oh, okay, yes, yes,
and
yes.
everything is, or pantheist, panpsychist. It gets a little tricky because you're like, well, if everything is living and everything is equal, then you don't have a hierarchy. I think there's still a you there, right? That has to go about your day, and you're having meetings, and you still have to, you can't just be flopping around on the floor, dissolving into into the everythingness or whatever it is.
Right. But that is also that just sort of respect for the things around us, which is hard in our system, which we have like built in things that destroy. So I don't know.
Yes, it is. It's true. It's very difficult, and I struggle with this. I think a lot of people do in trying not to cause harm, but to live. It's unavoidable that you're going to cause harm. But I think intentionality, you could really go down a rabbit hole there, but I really think about intentionality as being the most important part.
Right. And doing what you can within your place and space and the world and the people around you, right?
Yeah, that's so important.
Try to do, but yeah, it is perplexing. This moment is really just madness in so many ways.
Yeah, it
And
is.
in kind
But
of like, well, where are we? Where will we end up and where will this go and what other things will come from what gets destroyed? I don't know. And I'm hoping there'll be positive things from to make sense of it is not, there are things that make sense and then things that really don't. And so far a fathom, like it just feels like otherworldly to think that certain decisions being made by the White House, like that, how anyone can see that is like positive is just mind blowing. But now I'm living in New Hampshire and there are people that are like very like, yes, this all makes perfect sense. Like we need to not give healthcare to, the other. So Anyway,
Well,
tangent. I'm sorry,
that
but
no,
yeah,
no,
this
that's it. No, it's all connected.
unpack and try, it's like so hard to unfold that and make sense of it.
I'm reading this book called The Daily Stoic, and it's very helpful. Just a paragraph every day of Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or some dusty old Greek king or philosopher, et cetera, et cetera. One really good one recently I read was that there's only two things you need to focus on. One, being a good person, and two, doing the work that you love.
Mm, yeah,
And you can really simplify it. And what that means, of course, there's nuance there, and that's up to you. But I think that goes back to intention. It's like if you have these intentions that are good, you create a brightness around you, you have a good community and group. And talking to that's one thing I think that drew me to have this conversation with you is that you have a brightness, and I can tell that you're bringing people up.
thanks. Yeah, and that's true. That's a good reminder of like that's what we can do, and that is like yeah, that is part of the path and wanting to try to be good and kind and help in the ways that are possible. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's really good. So you said you were between shows. You just finished a show. I know you have
Yes.
another show coming up.
Oh no, I just installed and deinstalled this last.
Ah,
So I'm in like a kind of a pause,
good.
which is great. I am so happy. Like I'm just like, yes, I actually finished up the deinstall yesterday, came home and I had like plans. I had like artist talk I was going to at MacDowell and I just like collapsed. And I woke up today like, I am ready. Like, let's get this next project. And I love the fall and the winter here in New England because it is um the summer is like so many beautiful. It's beautiful. I want to be outside. I want to be traveling. I want to be in the lake and my garden and all of this kind of stuff. And my energy is like all over the place. And in the winter, it's like, okay, let's pull in. It's time to squirrel up and get into the cocoon of the studio and make. And I find it a really energizing time of the year. So I was like, okay, the decks are clear. Let's get to it.
That's
So
good. So you're about to slip into the pocket.
yeah, yes,
The war the warmth of this studio, the cave.
yes,
The cave of forgotten dreams.
exactly. And kind of clear the decks. Like I have a bunch of things I'd started and I'm like, okay, we're putting everything away. Like where do I wanna what what gets connected now? And excited to see where, working on some writing and then working on yeah, what's next.
I'm excited to see what's next too. Excellent. So before we go, is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think I don't think I have anything to add. I'm
Uh,
like the temperature has like dropped a good 10 or 20
yeah, yeah.
degrees. I'm like, oh yeah. It's
I I love that you're outside and I get to sort of like pretend like I'm in New Hampshire.
yeah.
I did notice that the light changed.
Yeah,
It
the
goes
light.
so
I'm out of the sun now.
yeah,
So
it
it's like,
goes.
oh, it's chilly.
I feel
Yeah.
like it goes so fast this time of year. Like all of a sudden it's like light, then it's dark.
Yeah. And it's really dark here at night, it's like
Ooh,
4:30. It's like done.
I recall that. I have a friend that lives up in Chesterfield, New Hampshire. I
Okay.
used to go stay with her, and I remember looking at the stars. It was like an acid trip. I'd never seen such clarity.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
beautiful up there. You're so
It is.
lucky you get to be in touch with the seasons like that.
That was it. Yeah, there's you have it. That was another big change. And also this time of year, I would come up occasionally before I moved. I have an aunt and uncle up in Claremont, New Hampshire, off the Amtrak. So I'd come up from New York, and I'd be like, "Ugh, November in New Hampshire, it's just gray and brown and no color. It's so depressing. How can they live here?" And now I'm like, "Oh, you just learn to find light and color everywhere, and it is always changing and shifting." And so now I'm like, oh, November, like it's awesome. There's so much to see. They see the terrain of the landscape in a different way than when there's leaves. You can really see the shapes of the rocks and it's so I love it now. It's funny to see those things change.
Yeah, it's all about attention, right? Noticing these things that are right in front of you. I think that's really part of the function of the artist is to just notice things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm. Well, it's been a real pleasure. And thank you
Well, it's so
again.
nice talking with you.
You too.
Much for having me and all this. I'm like great food for thought, and I hope to see you up here at some point.